Received a letter from a DVLA debt collector or even had them knock at your door? There are few things that will rob you of sleep and push your stress levels up like a debt collector chasing you for money. Today we'll tackle this by looking at 5 of the most important things you need to know when you're dealing with a DVLA debt collector. Just to be clear, I don't give financial or legal advice, I'm just making sure that you have access to the information that you need to make informed decisions. So, number 1, are DVLA debt collectors legitimate? The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, or DVLA, uses a host of different debt collection agencies to enforce their debts. These include, but are not limited to, Advantis Credit Limited, Bluestone Customer Finance Limited, BPO Collections Limited, CCS Collect, and many more. So I can confirm that the DVLA do indeed use debt collectors to enforce their debts. Whilst there are a bunch of scams out there when it comes to debt collectors, I'm afraid that this is unlikely to be a scam. However, you should never pay unless you are certain that the debt is yours. The most common reason for receiving a DVLA fine is for untaxed vehicles on the road, or failure to fill out a statutory off-road notice, or SORN. If, however, you feel that you haven't broken any vehicle rules, then you're well within your rights to ask a DVLA debt collector to provide proof that the debt is yours. What happens if you ignore a DVLA debt collector? Well, your problem could escalate and become very serious. A DVLA debt collector does have the right to take court action against you. If you were to ignore court letters, then you could end up with a county court judgment, which could have a major impact on your credit score and your chances of borrowing money in the future. If you do get a CCJ and you still don't pay, then this could ultimately result in bailiffs coming to your home to take your valuable items or even your car. There's a big difference between having a DVLA debt collector chasing you and having bailiffs come to your home. I can't urge you enough that now is the time to take action on your debt while there's still options available to you. So please don't ignore a DVLA debt collector, and we'll get to what you can do instead later in the video. What are the rules that DVLA debt collectors have to follow? Well, despite being legally appointed to collect your debt or outright owning your debt, there are several things that debt collectors cannot do when it comes to collecting debt. Knowing what they can and can't do will make you feel a lot more comfortable and confident when dealing with them. They are not allowed to visit you at your place of work without you giving them specific permission to do so. Before this rule was put in place, some debt collectors would show up when you're working and try to make things awkward for you as a way of pressurizing you into paying. On a similar note, they are not allowed to speak to neighbours, friends, or family about your debt. Again, this is to stop them from trying to embarrass or shame you into paying your debt. DVLA debt collectors can't contact or visit your home at unreasonable times of day. For phone calls, most people would agree that calls before 8 AM are too early and calls after 9 PM are too late, but your circumstances might be different. For example, if you work a night shift. If you can't take calls at certain times, then tell them. They should keep a record of this and avoid calling you at these times. You're well within your rights to complain if they keep calling or keep visiting your home at the times that you told them to avoid. By the way, for home visits, the regulations say that debt collectors need to clearly explain the purpose and the intended outcome of the proposed visit and give you adequate notice of the date and the likely time of the visit. Next, it's also good to know that they are not allowed to act in a threatening or an intimidating way. Also, they should never pressurize you into paying larger installments than you can afford or hitting payment deadlines that are impossible. The regulations say they are not allowed to pressure you into selling your home or to take out more credit to pay back your debts. Also good to know, a DVLA debt collector can't pretend to be bailiffs or enforcement agents. Unlike bailiffs, debt collectors can't force their way into your house or refuse to leave when you've asked them to, and they are certainly not allowed to take any of your belongings or to clamp your car. Okay, so how long can you be chased for debt? Well, under the UK's Limitation Act 1980, a creditor has 6 years to chase most unsecured unpaid debt, or 12 years for some mortgage debt. This limitation period starts from the time that you last made a payment or when you last acknowledged your debt. Ultimately, debt collectors cannot enforce their debts through the courts after 6 years, but if you've already been taken to court and have a CCJ registered against you, then there's actually no end date for how long you can be chased. How do I pay less and come to an agreement with a DVLA debt collector? Well, there are a number of ways that you might be able to reduce the amount you pay. If a DVLA debt collector is adding interest and charges to your debt, then you could ask to freeze them to help you get back on track and clear your debts quicker. Debt collectors are more likely to stop or reduce interest and charges if you can prove that you're in financial difficulties. Maybe you could put together a budget that shows your income and your essential living costs so that you can clearly demonstrate your position. You could also use that same budget to negotiate reduced payments. Again, for this, you'll need to show why you can't afford higher repayments, so make sure that you're clearly showing your income and essential living costs so that you can demonstrate what you can afford. Sometimes debt collectors will only agree to reduced payments for a short period of time, and at the end of this period, then they'll want an update on your situation. Other times, they will agree to much longer repayment times. It will depend on the nature of your debt and your individual circumstances. If you have the cash, you could make a final settlement offer. This is where you ask if they'll let you pay a lump sum instead of the full balance that you owe on the debt. In return for having a lump sum payment, some debt collectors will agree to write off the rest of the debt. These aren't the only options that are available in the UK. There's actually a bunch more. Some are free to use and others include fees, and each will have their own pros and cons. If you want to learn more about the debt solutions that I've mentioned, or you want to find out about other debt solutions available in the UK, then we've created a really great form that you might be interested in checking out. Click the link in the description to get started and answer a few multiple choice questions, like the total amount of your debt, how many people you owe, your living situation, and we'll connect you with one of our trusted partners so you can find out more and start taking steps towards improving your financial situation.